How do you feel about the weirdo allegations that Trump is a weirdo? I'm not gonna lie, I kind of love it. And I think a part of it is someone needs to say it. Listen, we can call him a misogynist, but who doesn't know that? We all know he's a misogynist. We all know he's a racist. Some people maybe are not as aware of that, which is kind of wild to me. It really sucks to have to constantly be like, this guy's a misogynistic piece of shit, racist, xenophobic, ableist. Holy shit, the ableism. Fucking fascist. I could do that all the time. It's true. That's the reality, right? But sometimes we just want to have a little fun and be like, that guy's a fucking weirdo. Like, he's a weirdo. Someone's not on the same page with you. You can slowly explain, okay, did you notice this comment by him and this action by him and this thing he did? You can just be like, that shit, it's fucking weird. And then if you're there with them, then maybe you can slowly start explaining, here's what misogyny is. Misogyny is when you bully women who don't fit your ideal idea of a woman by going after them for not having biological children, only stepchildren. Like, she's not being a woman in the way that you specifically want her to be, but you're not going after her in ways that she's actually harming people. You're going after her with blatant misogyny that's based on your own ideas of what a woman needs to be. You can explain that to people, but first, it's much easier to be just like, this guy is a fucking weirdo. I run into weird misogynists in the gym, right? One guy who was like, well, you look great. You could really compete. And I was like, oh, I could compete? You think so? And he's like, well, not against those women that look like men. And I just, not my idols. I wish I would have just been like, that's a fucking weirdo comment. He's being a fucking misogynistic weirdo. But I don't want to have to sit there and explain misogyny to a person every time. But if you want to talk about misogyny, I will absolutely explain that to you. Also, yeah, it does seem like calling them weirdos really, really pisses them off. In Trump, he tried to respond. Are you ready for this?
When you hear yourself and JD Vance called weird by Kamla Harris, who believes that a man should be able to win a women's boxing championship, that a man should be able to be a women's swimming champion. We had Riley Gaines on the show earlier. Who's the weirdo there?
So the boxing thing, is that referencing the Olympics, by the way? They're literal lies about a woman being a man, which of course they're just going after trans women. Hi, quick educational detour. I looked into it a little bit, and Khlif is just an Algerian cis woman that's getting hit by transvestigations. So, J.K. Rowling, Elon Musk, and various news sources have cast doubt on her womanhood by claiming she's a man or she's a trans woman. She is neither. She was born a girl, raised a woman, and identifies as such. There have been baseless allegations that she has elevated testosterone. But even if that were true, that doesn't make a woman a man suddenly. Men don't magically become women if they have low testosterone. She was cleared by the governing body, the IOC, for competition. I scoured through some news on this, but if you want some solid analysis, I'd suggest the following. In her recent video, Rebecca makes an argument that all cis women are being attacked. She's right that extreme transphobic ideas lead here, not just attacking trans women, but to attacking cis women through extreme gender policing and harassment. Regardless what they say, J.K. Rowling and other transphobes can't always tell. And when they can't, and they start screeching about it, it hurts not just trans women, though definitely their first targets. It also hurts any women that don't fit the traditional ideals of femininity, even if they're in a competition that's not traditionally feminine. Rebecca does a great job providing context into the recent confusion around Khlif's disqualification by the most disqualified sports organization, the IBA, and their shifting rhetoric around why they did it. Ariana Jasmine also brings salient points in her most recent TikTok.
I feel like every single Olympics, we have this same exact conversation. Oh, Serena Williams is a man. Oh, this Algerian boxer is really a man. Some women just produce more testosterone. It's just a thing.
And she's completely right. Serena Williams was dealing with this weird gender policing before this more active backlash against trans people. These rigid standards just aren't good for anyone.
Some women just naturally produce more testosterone than other women. We know that. Some women can also be born biologically as females, but they're just naturally intersex. That's a thing too.
As Ariana is saying here, intersex people do exist. About 2% of the population, actually. As many as redheads is what's often quoted. Cleveland Clinic states that being intersex can present itself in about 40 different ways, to the absolute terror of those still trying to count the genders. This is something the medical community also struggled to contend with. Because of society's lack of acceptance of body diversity, our medical institutions responded to harmless sex variants with surgeries that resulted in scarring, loss of sensation, incontinence, sterilization, and psychological trauma for 80 years. How long will the public struggle to understand that women are diverse? How long until we accept that strong women, women who are good fighters, women who are assertive, are still women? We need to get over these gender troubles and accept the diverse beauty of humanity. He's going after this point because this is the wedge issue that works against the left. This is an area where people are not familiar, and we've got a lot of conversation to have. And so people are falling for basically right-wing misinformation, and it's making it harder to progress as a society. So that's why this guy's hammering that point.
What's weird? Actually letting men pretend to be women and win championships, or just saying women's sports should be played by women?
Well, they are taking the wedge issues in fear-mongering about trans people, but even like that point, you're fucking weird. But I also know that from a larger societal perspective, that is an area where we need to do more education. We need to have more conversations. And they're obsessing because they were going after, like in different states, they were going after these policies to take kids out of sports in K through 12. And it targets like one child in the whole state. What a fucking weird ass bully move. And then making a whole platform on it. You know, like they were really trying to make that their wedge issue because they knew that people are a little less educated. So they're zeroing in on a very small population and bullying the fuck out of them. It's weird how they feel threatened by such a small portion of the population that just wants to live their own lives. Absolutely.
They're the weird ones, and if you've ever seen her with the laugh and everything else, that's a weird deal going on there. They're the weird ones. Nobody's ever called me...
Again, just misogyny. Like, the best thing you have against her is her laugh.
Weird. I'm a lot of things, but weird I'm not. And I'm up front. And he's not either, I will tell you. JD is not at all. They are. I mean, who wants to have open...
JD Vance, this man is weird. Who do you know that would, like, attack someone for being a childless cat lady? Like, are those people that you would hang out with? I am so glad. I almost want to act like it's a progress thing, but I don't know if it's a progress thing. I think we've always had misogynists, and I think they've gotten away with more misogyny in the past, but I have a feeling that even Trump knew that what he was doing when he was enacting, like, his previous misogynies were bad. And Vance, this shit was 2 years ago when he was running for Senate. He was running for Senate, calling out 3 people for being childless Democrats. That is incredibly weird to me. It blows my mind that someone can be such a weirdo so openly running for office. That is not someone I would ever want to be around. And if my friends was hanging out with someone that's going after people for being childless cat ladies, I'd be like, why is your friend so comfortable being so blatantly misogynistic? Like, why does your friend think that people, to have decent amounts of political power in this country, to have a normal amount of political power in this country, because he was like even brainstorming ideas of giving parents more right to vote under the guise of child's rights. And then he freaking, you want to give more political power to people who have kids because you think they have more of a stake in this country? That is weird.
Borders, we're prisoners. That's weird. We're prisoners and we're mental institution patients
peddling
taken out of hospitals and jails.
This is all fear-mongering. Source? What the fuck are you talking about? And I want a source that isn't just you picking up one anecdote and blowing it out way out of proportion and then generalizing it to the whole group. Because if we did that to white men, they would be fucked. And it would be absurd, because the reality is not all white men act like this weirdo. Not all white men are sitting there hand-wringing about illegal immigrants invading the country from mental asylums. What the fuck are you talking about?
They're let into our country. That's weird. Who would want that policy? Who wants the men and women's sports policy? Who wants to quadruple your taxes? The whole thing is weird. And the way they do elections is
You know
weird.
what? One's in chat if you don't think it's weird to want to quadruple rich people's taxes. Are you down for that, chat? Zero's in chat if you're like, Lumi, I don't know, that's a little weird. Back it up, back it up. I'm just saying. Only quad. You know what? Fucking roast me. Roast me so hard. Put a zero and be like, Lumi, go harder.
And no, they're the weird ones. But you know what it is? It's a soundbite. You've been watching it. Russia, 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 Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. It's all a soundbite. And the press picks it up. You notice the evening news, every one of them talk. You know, they introduce the word weird. And all of a sudden they're talking about weird. No, we're not weird people. We're actually just the opposite.
Okay, well, now that you're talking about it, everyone else is talking about it, and it's just going to get worse because all your responses making more weird statements. You just can't seem to stop it. Your response to being called weird and your running mate being called weird is pretty fucking weird, dude.
We're right down the middle.
Oh my god. And then I gotta share this with you. One's in chat if you've seen Republicans being really weird about Kamala's race and race in general. I feel like Republicans have really cornered the market on being weird about people and race.
The journalists in this room are black. I will tell you that coming.
Why do you think they're laughing? Do you think it's uncomfortable laughing? Or do you think they actually think it's funny?
There are millions and millions of
Like
people
what?
that happen to be taking black jobs. You had the best.
What exactly is a black job, sir?
A black job is anybody that has a job. That's what it is.
Anybody.
All right.
Just anybody that has a job. Anybody that has a job. What the fuck?
And
Mr. President,
they're
can
taking the employment away from black people. They're coming in, they're invading.
You know what
It's an
he's trying to
invasion
do
of
here,
millions of
right?
People, probably 15, 16, 17 million people.
He's trying to give black people the same brain virus that people who are obsessed with, like, what is it, white replacement theory? He is trying to infect other people with his weirdness. He's like, immigrants are coming to take black jobs. It's anyone that has a job. And it's gonna get taken. Like, that's what he's trying to do.
I have a feeling it's much more than that. And everybody's been seeing what's happened. The first group of people, the black population, is affected most by that. And Kamala is allowing it to happen. She's the border czar. She's the worst border czar in the history of the world. There's never been a border czar like this.
Sir, I know you want to point your fingers at class problems and try to blame it on immigrants when our workers are being shit on by companies. But honestly, why don't you just go to the source of the problem? Companies have been making record profits, getting a larger chunk of those profits percentage-wise, and then being like, oh no, inflation, it's so bad, whoa. And then somehow you're sitting here blaming immigrants. And it's so goofy. It's so goofy. I'm not one to share a Ben Shapiro tweet, but this is actually a really good meme. Listen. Even he's like, okay, y'all are just being really racist. As Trump is sitting there and being like, we're not weird. Vance isn't weird. Shit like this has been on his website. And abortion. I am 100% pro-life and believe that abortion has turned our society into a place where we see children as an inconvenience to be thrown away rather than a blessing to be nurtured. Eliminating abortion is first and foremost about protecting the unborn, but it's also about making our society more pro-child and pro-family. Pro what kind of family, though? What kind of family is he looking for? The historic Dobbs decision puts this new era of society into motion, one that prioritizes family and the sanctity of all life. The pro-life fight continues by ensuring that every young mother has the resources to bring new life into this world, expanding adoption and promoting pregnancy centers so that every child grows up in a loving home as they deserve. People who were seeking abortions and are pushed into adoption instead because they were rejected from their abortion have higher regret rates than people who have abortions. It causes familial trauma. We'll expand child tax credits and ensure that young parents don't come home from the hospital with budget-busting surprise bills. He was too busy at the border to vote for the child tax credits. There was a bill that was for child tax credits, and he conveniently wasn't there. That was just last week. It's slimy. And it failed, by the way. It did not go through. While Trump is over here like, listen, we're not the weirdos. JD Vance isn't weird. Conveniently, they pulled this off because his position is so unpopular. Even his own state. Did you see where people were showing his popularity ratings in his own states? Like his own area is lower than the country's popularity rating. Did you see that shit? It's like the lowest of any vice president. So when a Roe v. Wade fell, Ohio had a heartbeat bill with no exceptions. Ohioans were like, what the fuck? So they moved to make it so that people could vote on keeping all of the restrictions they had or enshrining in Ohio's state constitution stronger protections than Roe that may even have implications for healthcare for trans people. Amazing. Like it was individuals was the language, so it could help minors in getting access to reproductive care, and it could help trans people in access to reproductive care. Trump's like, I'm not weird. Vance isn't weird. It's the Democrats that are weird. And then they took this down. And I just think that's beautiful. You're hiding your positions just to fall in line with this other weirdo that I'm sure he won't speak up against it. I want to hear what he has to say about Trump's pussy grabbing comment. So you do have to bear with me on the Vance and Trump stuff. And I am sorry to those of you who are like, I don't need to hear it. I have family that are all Trumpers. My uncle is a Trumper, and he's also black, so I have a feeling he's gonna like Vance. Heads up. I've seen in my discussions that I've had on Vance as I've been sorting through things, people want to automatically be like, and I could be wrong on this, but they want to go after him from a racism perspective. And I'm not saying he's not racist because I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that, but I see the attacks on him being very shallow and misunderstanding his position. And he does seem to be like trying to push back against the racism in the Republican Party. Ew, but he's also child-free, so IDK. Oh, your uncle is? You should tell him. You should show him that. Just get his opinion. Just ask him, like, do you agree that childless people should have less political power? That childless people should not be running for office and get support? I just want to know what he says. Like, but you can't be a dick about it. You know what I mean? Okay, you can do it however you want. But I am just so deeply interested in how someone responds to that. That supports Trump. I just want to know. I talk to him on Facebook like twice a year. Well, if it comes up naturally, or if you feel like it would go okay, I don't want you like having to burn bridges, but You know, I am so curious because I had a conversation with a friend and I knew he was kind of politically ambiguous. I brought up Vance because we ran into each other and we were chatting it out a little bit. And he was like, oh my God, that guy's awful. And I was like, oh, and I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, my wife was considering voting for Trump. And then I saw that. And so I showed her this video of him talking about the childless cat ladies. And she doesn't have kids. And she has a cat. And he showed her the video. And she was like so mad. And she doesn't want to vote for Trump. She was considering Trump. And now she's like, ain't no way. And I'm like, I hope this sinks him. Showing people their policies actually change someone's mind. That happens. So, Illeander, this is the interesting point because I want to hammer policies 100%. And everyone I keep talking politics to, because I've been brainstorming. I don't know. So the elections will be in November. I might get one shot to talk to my family of Trumpers. And I'm like, how do I approach this situation? How do I do it? And one of the people I was talking to was saying, no. Don't go after policy. Because I'm trying to brush up on policy and understand what they're actually advocating for. And I was like, well, I want to have at least some policy to talk about because I feel like that's what's important. But then I started trying to talk policy to this guy and I'm like, well, just consider like the policies that he's pushed. And he immediately hand waved me away and was like, I don't care about his policy. His policy positions can change. What I care about is the fact that he literally has this class distinction in his mind. He's like, when you have that class mindset, that doesn't shift so easily. And so he was seeing them as having, like seeing people with children as in a separate class and deserving to be in a separate class. And he's like, that doesn't change as easily as policy. That's what really stuck with him. You need to know what's actually important to them and attack that. It's almost never policy. Yeah, my plan is to go in and listen for a bit. I'm not going to go in like guns blazing. I'm going to go in and I'm going to listen because I'm seeing it like, yes, I think this election is very important and I at least don't want my family voting for a misogynistic piece of shit. One of the reasons I'm like, this guy's kind of fucking weird. Why is Trump so weird? The pussy comment, he ever apologized for that? What's his commentary been on that? Because I don't care how long ago that is. That is unacceptable. That is a man who is comfortable abusing his power against women who have way less power. Dismiss it as locker room talk. Okay, be honest with me, chat. Guys in chat, especially. People who have been in guy spaces. Do you feel like that flies? Do you feel like guys are okay with that? Like, I don't want to be out of touch with the guys, but like, what the fuck? Is that not weird to people? I guess I just don't want to be that disheartened with men. Not with anybody I know. Sometimes it can, but it doesn't mean everyone is okay with it. More often than not, it flies because most people aren't willing to call it out. I don't think someone who has hung out in women's locker rooms when he owns Miss USA should use a locker room talk as a defense for those comments. Huge agree. When I was in male locker rooms, yes, it flew. And even back then, nobody dared to call it out, especially the people that had the status in the room to be able to do that. Ew, why do you think that is? Now, I guess I'm just around mostly not fucking weirdo guys. I'm around a bunch of cool guys. None of that shit would fly. I feel like the excuse is going to be like, well, it's just in guys' locker rooms. It's around other guys that understand. But I don't want to be around the guy that would have the status and not open his mouth and be like, what the fuck is this? I'm sorry, but if that's what you're doing with all male spaces, I think they should not exist. You should not have the space to be objectifying anybody like that. That is entitlement. That is misogynistic. It's just disgusting. The subject of conservatives and anti-abortion stuff and breeding kinks, What is this? The cross of honor of the German mother, referred to locally as Mutterkreuz, Mother's Cross of Honor, or simply Mutterkreuz, was a state decoration conferred by the government of the German Reich to honor a Reich German mother for exceptional merit to the German nation. This is how they're gonna say that they're not misogynistic. You're gonna see them elevate a particular kind of femininity. Oh, mothers are so important. These childless cat ladies should not be in the ruling class. That's what he says. Vance, okay, buddy, I see you want to crawl up in the ruling class and have more political power because you had children. It's domesticized femininity, and if you don't fit in that, they want to give you less rights. But they don't hate women. If you have an abortion, you're a murderer. If you don't have kids, you're a childless cat lady. You should have less political power. And of course, he's right under the I grab him by the pussy guy. Are we even fucking surprised? And you caught it was a Nazi Germany thing. I mean, when I see the swastika and it sounds like some Nazi shit, yeah, it seems like it's probably some Nazi shit. She's a stepmom. That's apparent to me. And she was when he made those comments. And he went after Pete Buttigieg, and his partner already had it in his plans to get kids. And they adopted twins after that. I wonder if he would consider them childless. This is what they're calling family values. Is America okay? Why do you say Ohiots? Ohioites, because I looked it up. This was important to me to get, because do you know what people from Indiana call themselves? Take a guess. Hoosiers? How did you know? Hoosiers? No, Hoosiers. They're Hoosiers. How do you know that? My mom is from there because I'm a Hooser. A hoser? You're from Indiana? I lived in Indiana for 4 years. Hey, yo! I'm a Hoosier. So y'all know. And I was like, maybe these little weirdo Ohioans also have a little weirdo name like I do. Listen, I don't even expect Floridians to know what the fuck a Hoosier is. Not all weirdos are bad weirdos. The Republicans are unfortunately the bad weirdos.